Hello and welcome to this video where we are going to use Alpine JS to create a ToDo app, and we are going to use some of the techniques that we have learned in the previous videos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a div, and this will have an X data, which would be a method that I would call as ToDos. And within this script tag, I'm going to define that to the tasks method, and this is going to return all the data and properties. So the first thing that it would return is the tasks, which would be an array, and it would have a new task. Let's just remove it for the time being. Let's only focus on the tasks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a template, and I'm going to display this template if the task's length is 0. So if there are no tasks, I'm going to display this template, and within this template I'm going to define a div, and on this div I'm going to add some tailwind classes, and this will have a text no tasks yet. So this would get displayed if there are no tasks. So there we go. Currently there are no tasks, so this is being displayed. Next I'm going to have another div, and within that div what I'm going to do, I'm going to display an input type text. I'm going to give it a X model new tasks. So this would ensure two-way binding, and I'm also going to give it a xref. I'll come back to it later on why we have used this. And finally I'm going to have at the rate keyboard dot enter. So when the enter is clicked, I'm going to call a method, and I'm going to call it as add new task. So let us define these two properties. First is the new task, which is going to be an empty string, and the next one is the method add new task. So this would be called when the user wants to add a new task. So first thing I'm going to check over here is if the new task is empty. We can do so using this keyword. So if this is empty, we do not want to proceed. We are just going to return. However, in case it is not empty, we are going to add this to our tasks property. So we are going to use this push, and within this task I am going to have the task, and I am going to have a boolean completed, which is going to be false. Next I'm going to set the input type text to empty, and what I also want to do is I'm going to make use of this refs keyword, and I'm going to focus again into the input box. So all right, this is our add new task. So let's test this out. So I'm going to add a new task. I'm going to press enter, and this didn't work because this should be key down, not key up. Sorry about that. Let's reload it again, and there we go. We see that let's do that again. As soon as I press enter, we will see that the above div is gone, and our input box is also empty. This div is gone because we had the condition that task.length should be 0. So now that we have added task, that is no longer showing. So let's display our tasks. I'm going to create another template, and I'm going to use x4 directive to loop through all the tasks. So we can do so like this. And within this template, I'm going to have a div which is going to be very similar to this div. I'll just change the color to red so as to distinguish between them, and reduce the padding and give it a margin bottom. And within this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the xtext directive to display our task. Remember, task is object which has another task property. So this task is this one, and then the task we have this task. So let's close this span and let's test this out. So if I add a task, we see that it's being displayed over here. If I add another one, that is also working fine. So we are able to successfully add a task. So now let us create a functionality where user is able to delete a task. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a cross button over here. So let's add the flex classes to our div and then add another span tag. And this would have a class of text byte. I'm going to use the ampersand cross to display the cross button. And there we go. So what I need to do is I will have a click method on over here, and that is going to be delete task. And I'm going to pass the index. You can have the index like this one. All right, so let's create this method delete task, which would accept the index as a parameter. And what we are going to do is we are going to return this task, and I'm going to use the filter. This is going to have a task and the I, which is the index while looping through, and we only want to return those tasks for which the index is not equal to I. All right, let's test this one out. Let's add a task, and if you click on it, nothing is working. This is because I need to close the inverted commas over here, and I'll also give it a class of cursor pointer like this one. So let's test it again now. So if I click on this one, that is gone. If I click on this one, that is gone, and we get the other div. So that is working fine. The user is able to delete a task. Now what we want to do is we also have this completed as false. So we will give the user the ability to complete a task. So for that, what we are going to have is we are going to have a checkbox. I'll wrap this in a div like this one, and here I would display a input type equal to checkbox, and I'll bind this to, to the task.completed property. So this would be checked if task.completed is true, and I am going to have the click event. Let's call it like this one, and again I'm going to pass the index. So let us define this method over here, task completed, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have these tasks and then the index, and within that index we have the completed property, and I'm just going to flip this property. So if it is true, this would become false. If it is false, it would become true. So let us test this one out. If I add a new task, we see the checkbox. I can check on it. If I add another checkbox, I can again mark it as completed. So what I would like to have is I would like to have a strike through the task if it is completed. And in order to do that, I'm going to use another Alpine property that is xbind, and that is a class. So first of all, I'm going to define the class line through, and I want this class to be applied if the task is completed. So first is the class and second is the condition. So that would be task.completed. So let's try this one out. I'm going to add a new task, and if I click on this checkbox, we see that it has been completed, and the delete functionality is also working fine. Okay, so now another thing I would like to do is that I would like to display the number of tasks which have been completed somewhere over here. So let's have another template, a template over here, and this would have a div, and within the div I'm going to display something like this: 1 out of 3 tasks completed, and I'm only going to display if there are some tasks. So I would wrap this up in the else if condition if task does dot length. So we can get the total tasks. uh, I'm going to create it to the span, and I'm going to use the x text, and I will use tasks dot length to get the total tasks. And let's test this out before we proceed further. So if I add a task, I get that. If I add another one, the count is updating correctly. So let's see how we can get the completed tasks, the count of completed tasks. I'm going to create a method. I'm going to call it count completed tasks, and this is going to return. I'm going to filter through all the tasks, and then I'm going to check that if the task is completed using t dot completed. So this will return all the completed tasks, and then I'm just going to return their length. And I can use this method over here and wrap this up in the span tag. Use xtext and have a method. So let's test this one out. So if I add a task, add another task, I mark it is completed, and our delete task functionality is also working fine. So we are almost done with our component. Another thing that I would just like to change is I'm going to have a placeholder over here. So we can add using the colon placeholder, and then I'm going to link it to the placeholder property that I'm going to soon define over here. And this would have something like I should. Okay, let's test this out. This is not working because of the typo. Okay, okay, there we go. And we see that placeholder property, and we are able to add tasks, delete tasks, mark them as completed. So hope you have enjoyed this video. Do do share your comment, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.